That's a snoozer, right? Who wants to talk about representation? People just want to buy a house.
I don't want to talk about it at all.
People just want to buy a house.
I don't even want to talk about it with this podcast.
Why does it have to be so complicated?
Real estate agent man.
Boring and complicated.
Boring and complicated.
Welcome to the most boring and complicated podcast you will ever listen to, folks. Just kidding.
Yeah, I try and have these conversations with people, and I see their eyes start to glaze over, and it's like, oh, man, there's got to be a way to get people to understand that if you don't understand that you're not being represented and you think you are, you might be pretty ticked off later on. So I'm trying to save you from that. And that's what I'd like to address in this podcast. If people could maybe, you know what, go get your Monster drink or your espresso shot or something that will keep you awake.
People will be listening to this while they're driving too, you know?
Well, yeah, that's true. They got nothing else going on. So
to you in the car, do not turn this off. This may save you money and hassle in the future.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Oh, quick story before we go. Onto the actual podcast. Years ago, I think 2016, we had a listing and the buyer came to us, wanted us to write the contract. So we write the contract and I'm trying to go through it with them because that's what I do. I want to make sure that my buyers and my sellers understand what they're signing. As I'm going through this, I'm like just not even through with page 2. And she says, I bought 4 houses in Florida. Just, I don't need to do this. I've read it. I'm good. I said, okay, great. So she signs it. We go into contract. About 2 weeks later, she realizes that she was not being represented as the buyer individually to her. The term for that is single agency.
Yes.
Okay. But she's like, wait, you're the listing agent? It's like, yeah, what part of my sign with my name in front of the house didn't you get? I don't understand. She was so mad at me, and she was trying to get out of that contract and trying to make it so that she could get her own agent involved. You're already under contract. The agent that writes that contract, that's your agent. So the importance of listening to this podcast and understanding this information before you buy or sell your next house, I think is pretty important.
Yeah, and I would also say if someone's trying to explain something to you about a very important process such as this, that you just let them finish their explanation maybe, even if you already have heard it a million times.
Yes.
Just in case.
You know what? I give you a lot of credit for that. There's so many times that I know that you know what I'm saying, and you sit there with your mouth shut and listen to it.
With a smile on.
With a smile. And there's two good things that could come out of that. One, you made me feel listened to.
I made you feel heard.
You made me feel heard.
And corrected.
Right. So my feelings, and I don't want to go there. No. Anyway, the most important thing is that I just might have said something in that topic.
That I didn't already know.
That you didn't already know.
Yep.
And I do the same thing. I let people talk, and I learn stuff. Mm-hmm. Not always, but I learn stuff. I would think that the content of this podcast we're about to talk about, 99.9% of the people that are listening to it will have not known all this information. It's that much of a secret. Secrets of Florida real estate. There should not be secrets. Secrets.
And now your host, Steve Martin Smith.
When I'm doing these podcasts by myself, there's just one voice, and it's me trying to give information and coach my buyers and sellers, because there's real estate coaches out there all over the place, right? And what their focus is coaching other realtors to be better realtors. And yes, that's important. Realtors need to be the best at what they do, and coaching can help get them to that. But buyers and sellers need to be the best at what they do. And it's really hard when most buyers or sellers, they may go through 2, 3, 4 purchases in their entire life. How do you ever get excellent at something when you do it like once every 7 or 10 years?
Yeah, I don't think that is the formula for excellence.
No, it's not yet. These are the most important financial decisions that we make as people, right? I mean, it's most people's biggest investment is their home. Mm-hmm. So that is why we spend so much time coaching our customers and helping them to understand the process so that they can make the best decisions for them. One size does not fit all. I've been saying that an awful lot lately, because when you think that there is a certain way to do it, a certain formula that's going to work in every situation, you are destined to run to situations that you are not prepared for.
Oh my gosh, when I first started in real estate, it was like every single transaction, I was just like, wow, these are all so wildly different. The scenarios you run into, you just don't get it until you start doing it. And that's been the case the entire time.
Yes.
Like, I have so many different stories, and they're all completely different. I can't say cluster. Or can I? Can you beep it out?
Yeah, I'll beep out that word you just said.
Oh my gosh.
Keep it family
but
friendly.
For real, there's so many things that can happen. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can lose a lot of money.
Yes. And I use the hair thing a lot, right? Because my wife being a career cosmetologist, and then we owned a day spa for a few years at one point. And so, I have definitely seen people trash their hair and come into the salon and
asking for it to be fixed.
And fortunately, it can be. Sometimes it may be having to grow it out and cut it off, right? But even if you totally screw your head up and you shave it bald, it will grow back and be healthy again. But when you get really screwed up in a real estate transaction, that's not a 6-month fix.
Oh, no. When you lose $30,000 because a builder wants to jerk you around,
Yeah.
no, that's not fixable.
Yeah.
That's just happened, and that's done.
Yeah. When you said that, I was thinking of a customer that we had that actually lost $50,000 on a new build from a big builder.
Oh, you had a $50,000 one.
$50,000 one. Yeah,
Yikes.
yeah. That was before you were ever involved.
If you screw it up from the beginning, you're just eating it.
Yeah. Or if you happen to buy a house and you didn't do inspections because you just trusted the homeowner to say that it was what it was, and then you get in the house and like, holy cow, they should have disclosed that. And then you try and sue them, but it's just a mess. So coaching, very important. If you don't have a real estate agent in your life that is coaching you through this stuff, I recommend getting one. That's what we do. And we don't even charge extra for it. It's just all part of the value of Steve Martin Homes Group. Now, I didn't really intend on getting off on that whole commercial because that's really what that sounded like. What are we here to talk about today? Oh, representation.
You brought me here, so.
Right. So representation is the topic of the day. And depending on what state you come from, determines what idea you have of realtors and what they do for you.
Yeah, some states, I know they only have listing agents.
Other states, you can have somebody who is a listing agent, somebody who is a buyer's agent, but they can't
be the same person.
They can't be the same person for the same transaction.
Yes.
Okay. In the state of Florida, which, the whole tagline for this is Secrets of Florida Real Estate That Should Not Be Secrets. This would be one of those. In the state of Florida, we have what's called a transaction brokerage relationship. And that is what I would say possibly 90% of all the people who have bought houses in Florida in the last few decades have worked under, and they didn't even know it. I think, from my experiences talking to people, that when somebody in Florida calls an agent or goes up to an agent and starts talking to them and says, I would like you to be my agent, they think that agent is representing them as like, like a client, almost like an attorney represents a client.
Well, yeah, unless it's explained to you otherwise, you would assume when you're hiring someone to do a job for you that they are going to have your best interest and only your best interest in mind throughout the entire transaction.
Right. So I have in front of me a little spreadsheet that lays out the differences between a transaction brokerage relationship and a single agency brokerage relationship. Now, every time I've explained to people what a single agency brokerage relationship is, they said, oh, that's what I want.
Well, that's what they thought they were getting in the first place.
They thought they were getting. So listen close, listener, okay? So there's 11 items here, and 7 of them you get with the transaction brokerage. It says account for all funds, which is really basic. If you give me your deposit check, your escrow deposit, I have to account for it and get it into wherever it's
You're
supposed to go.
responsible for it.
I'm responsible for it, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm supposed to deal honestly and fairly with you. Okay, you would expect that.
Ethics, yeah.
Yes, I'm supposed to disclose latent defects in material facts that affect the value. I like using the analogy that if I happen to know that in the attic there was a bucket collecting water when it rained, and I didn't tell you that, I would actually be breaking that rule. Because when you're going through a house, you're not looking in the attic, right? And if you're thinking about writing an offer on that house, you should know that before you write the offer. Sure, an inspector would find it. But what if you were somebody who just trusted the homeowner and didn't do an inspection? So it's my responsibility to make sure you know about things that could affect the value of the property.
They could also just remove the bucket.
Yeah, they could do that too. Okay, so next one is present all offers in a timely manner unless directed otherwise in writing. Okay?
Makes sense.
Right, makes sense. Additional duties mutually agreed to. So we could decide that, we're actually going to do some things that might be outside of the normal scope of real estate. But if we both agree to it, then we need to do what that is. Use skill, care, and diligence in the transaction.
Basic.
Yeah, common sense, right? Limited confidentiality. And that's why I like working as a single agency, right? Because here's the things with single agency. Complete confidentiality. Okay. I was on the phone with a listing agent today. I have a buyer I'm negotiating a contract with. And he says, well, tell me a little bit more about your buyer because, my seller, they owe a lot of money on this house and they're almost at their bottom right now, or they won't be able to sell it because they won't be able to pay it off. So, what's your buyer's situation? And I said, well, I'm actually a single agent with this buyer, so I can tell you nothing. But I can tell you that if you want to present a counteroffer, I will present that.
Yeah, and you never really know the agent on the other side and where their ethics lie.
That is correct.
So whether they're even telling the truth or not,
Yes.
I like to think that people are honest, but sometimes, so having that is really a good backup for just protecting our customers
Yes.
against any of that.
As a buyer, especially, why wouldn't you really expect that that's what your agent was going to do for you? Mm-hmm. You would just expect it. So again, back to people think they're being represented that way and they're not.
So as a transaction broker, what would you have seen instead of saying, oh, I can't tell you?
So I have seen this a lot. Well, I happen to know that this customer has the money in the bank to pay for their closing costs. We've asked you to pay 6% towards their closing costs. They do have that money in the bank. So if that's what we have to do to get this deal done, then if you counter and you're not willing to pay those, I know my customer really wants this house.
Well, now that's not what you would have done, but that's what could
be done.
Could be done.
And
Just want to make that clear.
I've had it done to me by other agents. They just like loose lips.
Oh yeah. I just let people talk sometimes. You get all kinds of information.
Yes. Oh, I ask other agents questions that there's no way I would answer. Why not?
I agree. Because why we're representing our customers.
Right. So it's just like when you have two attorneys in a courtroom, they're not concerned about the other attorney's client. They're concerned about their client.
And that's what their client thinks they're paying for.
Exactly. So going on with the list here, I just said complete confidentiality. The next one is obedience within the law. Now, this has to do with real estate.
Real estate only.
Real estate only. If you want me to present an offer that I feel like
is outrageously low.
Yeah, it's outrageously low, right? As a transaction broker, I can say, no, I'm not going to do that. As a single agency, I'm like, okay, let's do this.
And the other side understands that you're required to do that.
Right.
It's not even going to be a thing.
Right. I have had so many customers through the years come to me after working with another agent. And as I'm saying, okay, well, whatever offer makes sense to you, I don't care how low it is, because we never know how low a seller will go until you put something in writing, right? So let's get the conversation started. What's this house worth to you? Let's go. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah.
Reasonably. What is it worth to you reasonably?
Well, but then what's reasonably? Okay.
Well, $1 is not going to work.
Well, no.
Is my point.
But here's one. There was a house in Sawgrass not too long ago that was listed at $700,000, and it had been on the market a while. It had done price reductions all the way to $599. Somebody came in there and got that for $530. That's $170,000 less than the original list price. Now, I would imagine that an agent with a customer who saw that they just did $100,000 worth of price reductions and now has a customer wanted to offer 70, or maybe his first offer was lower than that, right? And it came up to only 70,000 less. But I could imagine that agent saying to their customer, they just came down $100,000. They're not coming down another 70. We will be right back right after this reminder to subscribe and leave a review for the Real Estate Agent Man podcast. There is so much to know about buying and selling a home that the masses are just not aware of. That is why we provide professional coaching to Florida's sellers and buyers on every episode and personally to every client. We want our customers to have the knowledge needed to make the best decisions possible for themselves and their families. Our real estate team personally covers Sarasota, Charlotte, and Manatee counties. However, Steve also interviews agents from around the state and the country to find great agents for customers out of our area. Visit stevemartinhomes.com for more information. And now, back to the podcast.
Right?
Right?
Anything's possible, but I could see that happening.
It's logical.
It's very logical.
It's logical. And most buyers would never even want to present that offer. And I know that because of all the times that I'm telling buyers, look, let's put it in writing. Right? Don't assume they're not going to.
Well, didn't you get that house in Panther Ridge? You got $400,000 off of the asking price?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot.
I know.
Had you not asked, you wouldn't have got it.
That is correct. Yeah. So, those are
representation matters, folks.
Yes. So those are things when you have a single agency relationship with your realtor, obedience within the law. You don't have to worry about whether or not your agent is going to present your offers that you want to present. They have to.
And they're going to do it with complete confidentiality.
That is correct. So there's two more after this. One is loyalty. Part of what that is that they're going to put your needs before theirs. If you are wanting to purchase a home that is maybe going to make them less money than another home, they have to really focus on the home that you want to purchase. They have to. Mm-hmm. You would think whatever agent you have would be wanting to do that, but there's a difference between having to and not having to.
The thought has crossed my mind that it happens when you're looking at what people are offering in commissions. If there's a house that your buyer doesn't necessarily think is their favorite, but let's say they're offering the buyer's agent a $20,000 bonus for selling it.
Right.
That's...
You're tempted to work extra hard on that one.
As a transaction broker, why wouldn't you?
You can. That's the problem, is it's set up that you can, and there's no repercussions for that whatsoever.
Right.
Okay. And so the last one is full disclosure. It's no longer just like limited confidentiality or disclosure of latent defects or material facts. If you know anything about the other side, the house itself, if you're representing the buyer, because keep in mind, you can do single agency for a seller as well. So this goes both ways. There's reasons why as a seller you may not want to do single agency, but that's a conversation between...
Yeah, we can have that another... It's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. So know that this is how the state of Florida operates. And I only listed 2 of the 3 brokerage options. The third one is actually really strange. It's called no brokerage relationship.
Yeah, I've heard about that one. I saw it in real estate school. Never have used it. Won't ever use it. Will never do it.
Actually, you might.
Because you're my boss? And you tell me to?
Yes. Yeah, you might.
I guess I'll eat my words on that.
Okay. With no brokerage relationship, how that might work. So if you have a listing and you are doing that listing as a single agent, okay, then somebody comes to you and wants you to write the offer for them, you can't represent them because you're a single agent as the listing agent.
Oh, so we go into a temporary...
Well, it's just called no
situation?
brokerage. It's a no brokerage relationship for the purpose of that contract.
Okay, and we would just get the approval of the seller at that point in order to change up our broker relationship?
No, you don't even have to. See
So we have a single agency, me and the seller.
You and the seller have a single agency, so you can do a no brokerage relationship with the buyer.
The buyer. Okay. And that's okay?
That's okay.
Huh. Learn something new every day.
Yeah. If you're a transaction broker, then somebody comes to you and you can be a transaction broker to them. So,
of course. Yeah, that's the standard Florida way.
Exactly. That's the standard Florida way. And since, we've historically written the contracts for about 30% of our listings, right? So buyers come to us and they want to buy the house and they ask us. And so we write it and we mediate the whole transaction, right? To me, the transaction brokerage is best summed up with the term mediator.
Makes sense.
You're helping create a win-win situation. You're being ethical with all parties. You're making sure that nobody's getting screwed to the best of your ability, and everybody's happy at the end. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, if you go on Google and you read our reviews, you won't see one single negative review about that. So I think we've done a good job.
Hey, cheers to that.
Yeah, I should be knocking on wood at the moment, right? Because the next one could blow up in my face. And last year we actually did 50% of our listings we wrote the contract for.
That is impressive. That is impressive.
Yeah. So it can be done. It can be done making everybody happy, right? But still, if you're not explaining to the parties, both sides, how they're being represented and what their options are.
Wouldn't you be in violation of Code of Ethics if you're not doing that?
No.
Oh, we are not ethically responsible to do this?
We are not ethically responsible.
That is so strange.
Yeah. Well, and I really think that that's one of the problems that caused this whole big settlement. And I'm not going to, there's so many podcasts about the settlement. I keep talking about it. So I don't really want to go into that in great detail. But a lack of communication on these topics and a lack of coaching has created an environment where the buyers and sellers don't understand the rules to the game. Imagine football players running out on the field without having a coach or training, and everybody does what they think football is supposed to be.
I mean, it depends on who's playing the game, but I think in most cases it could end up as a big mess.
Yes. So picture a bunch of 12-year-old boys.
Then it's definitely a big mess.
Okay.
Big mess.
Yeah. So
I was thinking Tom Brady, Gronkowski, Hernandez.
Yeah, well, that's people who know the game.
Yeah.
Pick people who don't know the game.
Nicole Smith.
Yeah. I know a little bit about it, Played football when I was 9 years old.
I know something like go to home base. That's all I know.
Yeah. Put on your goalie mask and get out.
Exactly. Take your hockey stick out there and hit that ball.
Hit that football. Yeah. All right.
So it's really important to know how you're being represented or if you're even being represented.
I'm going to probably be saying this in most podcasts for a while. This summer is when massive changes are taking place in real estate across the country.
Massive changes.
Okay. And actually, they're pretty simple changes, but they're going to affect a massive amount of people.
Yeah.
Right. And the biggest issue is that people are going to not understand what's changed. So ask questions. If you're in Florida, we can help you with this, even if you're not particularly in our area. So, okay, that wraps this one up. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Who are you?
I just walked in off the street. I thought this was ABC Liquor.
So you just gave a plug to ABC. I wonder if they would sponsor our show.
I don't. Maybe they will.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Real Estate Agent Man podcast, where we talk about secrets of Florida real estate that should not be secrets.
Wanna own a place like the ones you've seen, maybe near the beach or a golf course green. You're searching on the web and housing magazines. It's time you call Steve Martin Homes to reach your dreams. We sell Sarasota homes. We sell Sarasota homes. Sarasota area homes.
Hello, hello.
Yes, it's working. It's working. So I am really getting into this whole starting a podcast with Nicole thing. This is exciting.